heel doesn't get her. No, I'm explaining to you because you look nervous.
I wasn't nervous.
Okay.
Niva! Niva! This is Zoanna, Niva. You are instructed to listen to episode 263 of an Unearthly Podcast, streaming live on the 27th of June, 2018, and featuring, well, it's not the elbow of badness, nor the wing of xenophobia, but the face of evil. Written by Chris Boucher and starring Tom Baker as the Doctor and introducing Louise Jameson as Leela. I'm your host for this season, Randy Ronson McCulloch. And with me on the panel tonight is our tech director, Mad Matt Winchell.
Ah, you think darkness is your ally?
Aaron Romeo Moon Burke. Tim the Enchanter Sheridan.
Zoannin.
And returning after a extended absence due to a vacation in Spain is Bill Man in Black Sylvia.
Hola chicos, es bueno estar aquí.
Thomas Fireheart will be here tonight. He's just running a little late.
Happens.
Also, apologies to our YouTube fans. We have missed several of our highlights due to a technical issue. And we'll catch up with that in the upcoming week. So, how was your trip, Bill?
It was pretty good. Tons of museums, tons of Spanish food, some castles.
Castles are always nice.
So, how much paella did you eat?
All the paella.
Did you see the Rock of Gibraltar?
An average of once a week, unless you count the there's a dish that's just referred to as black rice in Catalonia, which is basically a paella with a different sauce. So if you count that, then I had 5 in 4 weeks.
I'm not really that big on Spanish cooking. I like Mexican cooking, but that's a completely different animal.
I spent the entire time there looking for anything spicy to eat, and I did not find it until we had a home-cooked meal cooked by a member of our group. So, yeah, very, very different.
Yeah. Yeah, that's because Mexican cooking takes its influence from the Mayans and the Aztecs.
Mm-hmm.
My brain just completely spaced on that name. But yeah.
Probably also relevant is the fact that since most of our time was in coastal areas, there probably wasn't much of a need to spice food and keep it from going bad or mask the taste, which is normally the reason why warm areas are so heavily spiced.
Mm-hmm. And I bet that means that you're also pretty heavy on seafood.
Extremely heavy on seafood.
Yeah, well, that's what happens with any coastal city. So where were you in Spain, just out of curiosity?
I was half a week in Madrid, 3 weeks in Malaga, about half a week in Barcelona, and then half a week elsewhere in Catalonia.
Oh, so you went to Barcelona.
I was just going to mention Barcelona.
Barcelona was the area that felt the most like an American city, partially because it's a tourist area. So, the prices were equivalent to America. They were lower everywhere else. And just the general city layout, graffiti, and everything else felt very much like being in an American city.
So you didn't find anything spicy in Madrid? Because that's about as inland as you can get in Spain.
Not during the 3 days we were there.
Okay.
Maybe if you had more time, you would have found something, but apparently not.
So you didn't go to Seville for a haircut?
Is Seville known for haircut? I did go to Seville.
You've never heard of the Barber of Seville? Tim got it.
Yeah.
Tim works in theater, though.
Tim gets all of your jokes. I never. If it's a joke I don't get, Tim is guaranteed to get it.
Oh.
Tim has magical
I'm
power.
sorry. I try not to show it, but I do have a bit of culture.
Yes.
More like a fungus, but still.
See, he knows of the Barber of Seville, but he has never actually watched the
Hey,
I've heard excerpts of it. I've never watched it in its entirety.
fungus.
I've watched excerpts from it. Different. Yeah.
I've seen the Bugs Bunny.
Yeah. So have I. But I've heard like excerpts of it on public radio. But no, I envy you because I have never been to Spain. I have never been anywhere outside of North America.
Hmm.
And I can only say North America because I've been to Tijuana. And that's really not much like leaving the United States, especially the portion of Tijuana I was in. Which I believe is... frack, I can't even remember where it is.
I will say
It's
I know.
basically
I noticed...
It's a giant mart selling rip-off T-shirts and other copyright infringement goods or stuff you can't normally find in the U.S., like butterfly knives.
Talking about travel, one thing I noticed as I was heading back is I'm not sure if I just didn't leave the hotel much last year or if Pokemon Go badges weren't a thing yet when I was last in Wisconsin. But apparently I now have more Pokemon Go badges in Spain than in the United States because I only have New York City, Philadelphia, and Danbury.
I'll have to talk to you about the badges later.
I'm pretty sure the badge system hadn't come out the last time you were in the state.
Which makes sense because I have nothing from Boston, and I know I walked a lot while I was in Boston, so I'm guessing I knew the badges weren't out then.
Oh God, what is the big tour in Boston? What is it? The Independence Trail or something?
The Freedom Trail?
The Freedom Trail. I'm thinking what would happen if you went Pokemon going on the Freedom Trail. That's just curious.
Probably some sort of eagle Pokemon.
I was going to say the closest thing to a tour that I saw when I was in Boston was there was a St. Patrick's Day bar hop going on.
No, there's such a thing as the Freedom Trail. It's mentioned in Fallout 4, which is why I know about it.
Gotcha.
Considering I have never actually been to Boston. It's on my list of places I want to visit in the United States.
I mean, we did pass the spot of the Boston Massacre while I was there, so we probably walked along parts of that trail.
Yeah, it's part of going out basically the old Boston area. I think it goes past Paul Revere's house and the old North Church. You know, one if by land, two if by sea. You know, that whole area up there that's 200 years old or more. That is all to do with the American Revolution. All were very big locations back during the American Revolution. So they've developed a kind of a tourist trail to go through there called the Freedom Trail.
That is one thing. When I was in Philadelphia, it was raining or snowing the entire time I was there, so we did not get to see any landmarks.
Yeah, that's something I want to do. I want to go to Philadelphia, and I want to see like the Liberty Bell, and isn't museums isn't there a big museum in Philadelphia?
There's probably
like
a
the
few.
Smithsonian.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I think the Smithsonian is DC.
I'm not too sure.
Wrong, though.
Well, isn't there like a big museum up at the top of the Rocky Steps?
Maybe.
Yeah, but that's an art museum, I'm pretty sure. I think that's the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Yeah, the art museum steps up to the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Yep. Anyway, we've now screwed around long enough.
True.
I was about to say, I think we've alienated the audience completely at this
Official
point.
last thing,
Yes.
because it brings us back to the original topic. I did find out while I was in Spain that there's a major Salvador Dali museum in Florida. So
Been
if
there.
I ever go there again, then I'll be checking that out.
It's in
I'm done.
Tampa. It's in Tampa. I know because I've been there. I have a mug from there. It's broken now. I really want to go back and replace it one day. Anyway, tonight's show. We have news and birthdays. Not a lot of birthdays. A little bit of news. A little more than usual.
Yay.
Bill will be talking in our Geek Talk section. He's seen a lot of movies and TV shows over the last few weeks, so he has a chance to catch up. Actually review a couple things that we haven't seen. I don't have a rant this week. Bill has not watched anything in its entirety, so he doesn't have any reviews of shame.
Shame.
Then it should be our episode summary, our reviews, final thoughts, and ratings. So, starting with birthdays, we have 2 birthdays of note this week. First of which was on 23rd of June, which was Saturday. Actually, they're both on the weekend. And that would be Caitlin Blackwood, who played young Amelia Pond in 2010 and then again in 2013. She turned 18. I think she is one of the youngest people on our list of reoccurring Doctor Who characters.
If anybody needs anything to help them feel old.
Yeah. Then on Sunday, the 24th of June, is the birthday of Yasmin Page, who played Maria Jackson in the Sarah Jane Adventures, has turned 27, and that was the one that made me feel old.
Damn.
Yeah.
Yeah, she looks like she should be in like an action movie or something now. She definitely looks old enough to be doing different stuff, far different stuff than she used to.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, happy birthday to Caitlin and Yasmin. That would move us to our Lost Story section, which there is none this week. I think we had one last week.
Yep.
Episode news. There's nothing with the current episode, because there's none. Nothing with the previous episodes, because there's none of note there. And then we have some Series 11 news.
All right. Episode 1 footage has been leaked online. Social media has been both a blessing and a curse to Doctor Who showrunners in the last 13 years. Its curse side showed up once again as the tight-lipped secrecy around the new series sprung a leak, as usual on Twitter. A few minutes of the series premiere was leaked online from about 1/2 hour in. The BBC copyright infringement Core quickly had it pulled, but not before some fans were able to see things like Whittaker's new Sonic and new companions. We're hoping some of this footage will be shown next month at San Diego Comic-Con, but we'll see. Next on the news, according to the BBC, Chris Chibnall has finally chosen Murray Gold's replacement as composer for Series 11 onwards. Segun Akinola is considered one of the up-and-coming composers in Britain today. He has composed for the 4-part series Black and Britain, A Forgotten History,
Those are 2 separate 4-part miniseries, by the way.
Okay, Black and Britain, A Forgotten History, as well as the feature film A Moving Image. Doctor Who will be a big step upwards career-wise for Akinola, and let's hope he's up to the task. He has big shoes to fill. Welcome to the Doctor Who team, Segun.
I say that it's a big step upwards because it's, a lot different for composing, little 4-part miniseries where you have 4 episodes and then a long break, or a feature film where it's 2 hours and a break, than doing, 10 episodes straight and then pretty much, half a year off before doing the next series. And there's no guarantee they're going to keep the same format for upcoming series too. It may go back to the 13-parter, but probably not, since apparently they're all emulating Netflix now, and Netflix tends to be 6 to 10 parts.
If they're emulating Netflix, then they'll just drop a dozen episodes on one day in October.
That's been rumored. It's
We'll
been
see.
rumored that they may eventually do that format, is just drop it all on iPlayer.
That's what
Following the
I think
premiere of the
that's what we
first
thought they
episode.
were going to do with Clash, or at least what a few sources thought they were going to do.
It's been stated for Series 11 with the drastic changes Chibnall's making.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so that moves us on, and we do have some cast and crew interviews.
Yes, alumni
Yes.
cast and crew by Philip Hinchcliffe. 70s Doctor Who producer Philip Hinchcliffe has been vocal of late, giving a series of interviews to promote the release of the Tom Baker Season 1 Blu-ray set. In one at the BFI presentation of Genesis of the Daleks, Philip Hinchcliffe talks about the season that could have been had he stayed on for the 77 season. We did start to plan another season. There was all this musical chairs going on about whether Bob, Robert Holmes, and I were going to carry on or not. He goes on to describe that under him, season 77 would have taken a distinctive Indiana Jones-style adventure vibe, albeit 4 years before Indiana Jones existed. I was ahead of the game, he said, the Doctor being like a colonial explorer with a pith helmet out in the jungles. So I was kind of already on the Indiana Jones trail without realizing it. It was the next thing bubbling up in my head that might somehow take the program in a slightly different way. We started to think of stories like that. In fact, I even wrote one and sent it in after I left the program and was told it would be far too expensive, so they couldn't do it. Later in the same interview, he talked about another time he thought Doctor Who was dead in the water after the release of a certain movie, Star Wars. The first shot was of the starship going over, and I said to Dougie, director Douglas Camfield, the game's up, we're dead. But funnily enough, we weren't dead, because there's something uniquely British, and BBC-ish, about Doctor Who, which has enabled it to survive alongside all that super development of space adventure stories that have come out of Hollywood. There's something about the format of Doctor Who which is infinitely malleable, but at the time, it felt like we were doing stuff for 200 or 300 pounds, and there were these amazing effects on the big screen.
So it's not the first time that we've heard that Star Wars might have almost killed something with Doctor Who. Apparently Tom Baker and Ian Marter felt the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Going to see Star Wars about their plans to make a Doctor Who feature film. And that, of course, did die in the water, although I think it was having problems getting kicked off in the first place. All right, so that takes us through to the Big Finish news, because there is absolutely no other news. There's nothing out there.
Okay.
The crickets are chirping.
Out today is the latest in the Torchwood monthly range, Goodbye Piccadilly. In the release, Sergeant Andy Davidson has somehow been sent to the 1950s and needs to help Norton Folgate save Torchwood by collecting an alien artifact. Torchwood Goodbye Piccadilly is available from Big Finish for £7.99 download / $9.99 CD. Also from Torchwood, coming in October, Series 6 of Torchwood begins when Torchwood is visited by an alien god, chronologically taking place but a few days after Aliens Among Us, but Torchwood is at less than full power, having taken casualties in the last season. Torchwood Series 6 Part 1 starts in October 2018, Part 2 in February 2019, and Part 3 in June 2019. You can pre-order today individually for £28 CD, $25 download, or you can save money on a bundle with all three parts for £75 CD, £60 download. And that blurb did not have the title, so I'll say that is God Among Us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's apparently the series theme is God Among Us. That's basically Series 6's name. But
Yeah.
all the episodes are going to be called Part 1, Part 2, Part 3.
Right.
So.
Like Miracle Day, Children of Earth Day 1, etc., etc.
Yeah, or the last series, which was, what did I say that one was? Aliens Among Us, Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, yeah. I know that in that season, by the way, Tracy Ann Oberman is back as Yvonne Hartman, and I recognize nobody else other than John Barrowman in the list. Oh, Tom Price is Sergeant Andy Davidson.
Hmm.
But apparently Gwyn is not in it. Neither is Reese.
Is
And
that
I
the cast list just for part 1?
It doesn't mention whether it's part 1 or just the series in total. But I'm wondering if that means that Gwyn and Reese have been were casualties in Aliens Among Us. I'm speculating. I don't know for certain. I know that Eve Miles has been in interviews saying that she's kind of fed up with Torchwood, or maybe she's just found other work. I don't know.
Every Doctor Who actor says that eventually, and then they come back.
Yeah.
Yeah, they say that, then all of a sudden they were like, wait, I want to change my mind on this after they have another really good experience.
Okay, so moving on to our Geek Talk section. Bill has seen a lot of stuff in the last few weeks. Some of it is old, some of it is new.
Some of it is borrowed, some of it is blue.
I'm not sure about that.
Part of that is due to the fact that Netflix has decided to do a massive update, like literally like the 2 days after I got back from Spain, everything on Netflix was updated. There are still some things I'm behind on because I have priorities and did not just spend 7 hours straight binging Netflix.
Yeah, well, Netflix is gearing up to, because Hulu is going to be, if Disney winds up owning Hulu, that's going to be a completely different animal.
Yeah. Speaking of Disney, though, the first thing that I watched was the newly released Luke Cage Season 2. Without going into any spoilers, I'll say that if you enjoyed Luke Cage Season 1, you'll probably enjoy Luke Cage Season 2. I think it starts off a little bit more quickly. It doesn't have anyone quite as entertaining as Cottonmouth, but it doesn't have anyone as anyone as bad as Diamondback either. The villain is a little kind of in between the two of them, but still a pretty decent season villain or villains, depending. It's a Marvel series.
Yeah, it's probably something I'm going to watch as soon as I get Netflix back.
Yeah, I haven't even finished season 2 of Jessica Jones yet.
Without going into reasons or anything, it does include the next stage of Iron Fist development. They seem to be testing the water as to how people will feel about evolving the Danny Rand character, which I think anybody who watched any of the shows with him in the past will agree that that's probably a good thing because he needed some work. But yeah, in general, I would say if you're a fan of anything related to Luke Cage, you'll probably enjoy Luke Cage Season 2. Also part of the massive Netflix update was Winona Earp Season 2. I'm pretty sure this aired on Sci-Fi like 2 or 3 years ago, but the Sci-Fi streaming on their website is crap, so I've been unable to watch it. But I was finally able to watch it on Netflix, and that's kind of the same thing. If you enjoyed Season 1, you'll probably enjoy Season 2. They kind of come up with, it's... I wish I had thought of an example before starting to say this, but it's kind of like many other shows where the original threat was diminished at the end of Season 1, so they added new threats to kind of expand the threat while still keeping on premise. There's less revenants, but there's still just as much to do. And yeah, that's about all there is to say. If you're a fan of Winona Earp, which is to say if you're a fan of Western adult Buffy, then you'll be a fan of Season 2.
Yay.
Also,
I don't know. I put that in the same way as Jonah Hex, which is a DC property that I never really got into.
Mm-hmm.
Supernatural Western is just not my thing.
Also on Netflix, although this was released a few weeks before because I watched it a few days after it appeared on Netflix, was the finale for Sense8. Sense8 had been canceled after its second season, and after massive fan demand, they finally came up with a finale which sort of condenses what would have been the plot to season 3 into 2.5 hours.
So basically, like Serenity to Firefly.
Exactly, yeah. I would say it seems like they trimmed a lot of the fat. As a Sense8 fan myself, I tended to feel that it was very and too focused on the artistic, look at the fancy visuals and the weird way we do things, and not focusing enough on the plot. Whereas this still had some of it, just like any other Sense8 episode, there happened to be, a massive orgy at the telepathic orgy at the end, just like every episode. But
Okay.
the plot was a lot stronger, a lot more focused than if it were spread out over a full season. I feel it's probably one of the strongest episodes of the show as a result of that. It's still, covered up a ton of loose ends, had some major events for the characters, had a final Sylvester McCoy cameo. I couldn't really recommend this to I wouldn't really recommend this to anybody who's not already watching the show. But just to say that if you were uncertain about watching it after having watched Sense8, that it finishes strong, and it's probably a good enough reason to pick it back up.
All right.
Mm.
You've also seen a crapload of movies, some of
Yep.
which we've already reviewed, but go ahead.
I don't know the order in which these were released, but I'll go with the ones that I did not watch in theaters first. So that would have been Justice League, which I watched, and it kind of felt a little like Suicide Squad in the sense that they didn't seem to know what they were doing in the writing department, and were just slapping a crap load of characters together without really thinking through the setup.
Well, you do know the story behind that, right?
I know, the Snyder. I know there was the reshoots by Whedon and Snyder.
It's not just reshoots; it was rewrites.
Mm-hmm.
So half of that movie was written by Schneider, and half of that movie is written by Whedon. So, it loses a bit of coherency.
Even still, just the basic setup of the movie seemed to completely lack understanding of the characters and just of good writing in general, which is annoying because Zack Snyder, Joss Whedon, and the people working for them are pretty much all, seasoned professionals who should know this shit by now.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of your opinion on them personally, they should still understand
Zack
that
Snyder.
Batman is not Nick Fury. Actually, Nick Fury is more stealthy than Batman was in this movie anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I had major issues with the Batman Aquaman scene in that. Because, this is Batman. He's supposed to be fucking paranoid about his secret identity.
Yeah.
And he walks into a bar in the middle of nowhere and basically goes, "Yeah, I'm recruiting you for the Justice League because I'm also Batman." And it's like, no.
Yeah.
Facepalm.
Pretty much.
And I'm not sure who did that. I only could suspect it smells more like Whedon than Schneider.
If
But
it's snarky,
still,
you know?
yeah, because it's snarky and kind of upbeat dialogue, and I'm just still, it's like, bad Joss!
Actually, I'm wondering if maybe the way it was already pre-written, he was forced into that dialogue.
It's quite possible, and he just took it lightly.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's still, that should have been something that should have gone back to scripts,
Mm-hmm.
because that's terrible writing.
That entire scene should have been thrown out and redone, but that's just what I would think about that scene.
And yeah, there were other things to it that just from a story, like the entire fact that Aquaman was a new character and they introduced him in such a rushed way, kind of things like that just indicated that they weren't paying attention to writing so much as branding.
Mm-hmm.
Comparative.
That was kind of my issue too. I thought the person that got the best character development of the entire film was Cyborg, because they actually kind of stuck to his New 52 origin pretty well.
Okay. I do wish that by the end of the movie he had kind of reached the personality that animated show fans would have come to expect from him.
Yeah,
But Aquaman was kind of taking up that niche on the team, and there was no room for him
the
to
fact
have any personality.
the fact is that if you're talking about the Teen Titans animation, that is that's like Cyborg turned up to 11
I get that,
based
but
on his actual comic book persona.
I get that. But what I'm saying is, if they had just allowed him to reach the, the point of being at least equal, as snarky as Batman and Wonder Woman by the end of the movie, but with his own flavor, would
Bill,
have been nice rather than just sulking for the entire movie.
they did one thing with Cyborg that they had never done in any other version of the character since the animated one. He did actually say at one point at the end of it, "Booyah,"
I
which
think I remember.
I've been waiting for
Mm.
in every version of Cyborg we've seen since then.
But yes, I did like that scene.
That's still one scene.
Yeah.
Well, he did lighten by the end. I mean, he wasn't quite up to that, but he wasn't Captain Depressing.
Mhm.
And that's the one reason I liked it, because he actually showed character development,
I think
unlike
part of
everybody
it is
else who was one-dimensional.
Aquaman was Drax, Aquaman was Drax, but also a frat bro, so there was no room for somebody else to have that kind of like jock personality.
I know he looked like '90s Aquaman, but acted like '60s Aquaman. You know, you're expecting DC animated universe Aquaman. Instead, you get Batman the Brave and the Bold Aquaman. It was not good.
Whereas with the way his story was portrayed and the way like he was introduced, you would have thought he would have been the sulking member of the team.
Yeah, the '90s Aquaman, the dark, broody one.
Yeah.
Would have had to lose his hand.
True.
Even so, he comes off as the ho-ho, and it's like, no.
Right.
Face palm.
Yeah.
Comparatively, Batman and Harley Quinn was a great ride. It was pretty much a sequel to the animated series for adult fans of that series. But I think
it has been stated by them that it is actually a canon continuation of the Batman the Animated Series.
Okay. I'm pretty sure some of the character development, I don't usually watch a lot of DC animated films, but some of the character development, as far as I know, was only in the comics. Unless Harley leaving Joker and working with Poison Ivy did happen in a movie that I haven't seen.
It happened in the cartoon.
It happened a few times in there. She left the Joker but kept coming back, and
yeah,
it was an on again, off again thing. And whenever she would leave him, she'd be with Poison Ivy. So
gotcha. But yeah, that was good fun. It was great to see Nightwing and Harley Quinn as kind of the two graduated students from opposing martial arts schools facing off and kind of fighting to a draw, depending on your own personal interpretation. One as the the more honorable, and one as the poison expert. So you can come to your own conclusions as to who won that fight. But altogether, I think I enjoyed myself from pretty much start to finish on that one.
I think I started grinning shortly into that one, and I never stopped. It was a good ride, and I think Bob and I still quote scenes from that at each other. And it's been almost a year since I've seen it. I kind of want to see it again now. Was that on Netflix?
It was on the Delta in-flight movies list, so I don't know if it was on Netflix or not.
Okay, yeah. Our friend has the DVD, so he loaned it to us, and we watched it. I might have to pester him and say I kind of want to watch it again.
And the final movie I watched in flight was Blade Runner 2049.
The Golgi apparatus. The most amazing thing about
I enjoyed it as much as the original Blade Runner. At first, I didn't expect to, because I kept going like, "Oh, this guy's obviously the villain of the piece. I'm not going to like him." But I started to like him, and I got drawn into. There's a mystery plot going on, and it's interesting following the mystery and seeing what it actually leads to, because it plays with your expectations as much as it plays with the character's expectations. Blade Runner is one that it tends to lack the high energy, like victorious moments that really like make me really like a movie. I enjoy the ideas and the themes and such, just not to the extent of some of the other properties. Um, I also do I also particularly like the I think they play with some new themes that are kind of continuations off the ones in the original movie.
They do.
I'm not sure I'd want to see a Blade Runner 3 because that would come down to being more of an action movie, at least based on the ending of this movie. Um, but I wouldn't be against something else in that universe.
I think they said that they do have a third one in mind.
As long as they do it well, I don't care how they do it.
Yeah,
As
I'm not
long
sure.
as they do it right.
I'm not exactly sure what it is, but the director said that he has a concept.
Right? It's 2018, so the concept is probably let's do a prequel. I would not be against
again,
if
we
it's
don't know
done
details.
well, and it draws off of Philip K. Dick's work.
Yeah, he has stated back in January that he had another story ready to evolve and be developed. But he hasn't said anything further on it. That's all
I'm sure with how long it took for this one to come out, it's going to be a while before this one gets hammered out. Also, I enjoyed the fact that apparently Blade Runner came out as a sleeper hit, that people were almost shunning it at first, and then all of a sudden, as it was about to come out of theaters, all of a sudden everyone went to see it and saved it.
We saw it relatively early on. It's still not considered that successful as far as grossing, because the amount that it was expected to break even was around 400 million, and it only made 259 million worldwide. However, it became a basically an award farm. It's nominated.
Became an award farm. People started looking at it again, and I'm pretty sure the videos have been selling off the racks.
Yeah, it's been an award farm, and the fact that it won a whole bunch of awards. Did it actually get into the Academy Awards? Yes, where it won 2 Academy Awards.
Boom.
And one of which was Best Cinematography. So that puts it back out of the failure into a not really a financial success, but a prestige success movie.
We don't care that we didn't make all of the money. The fact that we made some of the money and people noticed.
That was, by the way, the old school style of filmmaking before the Disney approach happened. Was that you had your bread and butter films, which made you money, which allowed you to make the art house films that won awards. And
Blade Runner's always been more of the art house.
Kind of.
It's not an action flick per se. It's never going to be that big breadwinner.
Okay.
Moving on to the movies that I've seen in theaters. The first was Avengers Infinity War. I did not like it as much as some MCU movies, but it wasn't the worst either. I'd say it was kind of in the middle. Probably part of that is probably because despite all of the possibilities for different ideas and themes, the one solid political theme I picked up in this movie is that men are stoic when they're tortured and women scream in agony, which I don't think is what they were going for. And if they continued with that with a lot more examples, would have been more egregious than it was. As it was probably a mistake, probably something they never realized, but an example of people not thinking things through. But that was a very minor thing. Ultimately, though, and I think this has come up in interviews, there seems to be a lot of people doing things or things being in a certain order for the sake of the plot rather than for the sake of character development. And as a result, it felt kind of a little bit soulless compared to what I was expecting, at least. I mean, it was really hyped and people talked about like it being very emotional. So I kind of thought there'd be a little bit more meat to it than there really was. As a result, it felt like a moderately successful setup for Avengers 4, but nothing really stronger than that. this is also after me coming into it after seeing a month worth of memes kind of spoiling some of the major points. So take take my opinion with a grain of salt
already
because of that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You spoiled yourself.
Yeah. You were a part of the meme engine, and that spoiled you.
Mm-hmm.
So you weren't quite as shocked when certain things happened, because a lot of it was shock value.
It's one of those movies, and especially the very big major scene that everyone talks about having been the most emotional. I kind of pretty much knew exactly what was going to happen before I even started watching the movie. It hadn't been directly communicated to me, but I had seen thousands of memes obliquely referencing it, so I kind of figured it out.
Okay.
I also, speaking of which, I also, the whole plot with Spider-Man and Iron Man is a good example of what I mean by soulless, in the sense that it was probably written that Iron Man was really caring for Peter's safety, that Tony was caring for Peter's safety and concerned about him. But the way it comes off watching the film was that he just wanted someone to boss around. You don't really see him like the PTSD and stuff from Iron Man 3 and his other there's the emotional conflict doesn't really show, at least not it didn't to me, in a way that drew me into that relationship, which I think it could have done if it was done a little different.
All right. And the last movie that you saw?
The final movie was Solo, a Star Wars story. I watched this last night, so I'm kind of still picking through some of my thoughts from that. Some kind of mixed feelings. I'm still not sure which ones override what. Ultimately, it was a fun movie. A lot of Easter eggs, so that's a positive. It does reference. I've complained about some of these movies refusing to even reference all the things that they cut behind, aka my entire childhood. And this actually references a lot of them. So I can't fault it on a fan perspective. There are some story choices that I felt are kind of indicative of various problems. And I thought that there could have been an alternate cameo that would have been just as impactful as the cameo that did happen at the end of the movie, except that would have sent a more positive message to a different audience, which they specifically a cameo that I think would have been very valuable to the people that grew up after the prequels and enjoyed the animated series, which the animated series ties heavily into the cameo that did appear, not trying to spoil it too much. So I think it would have been relevant as compared to being superfluous. Ultimately, I think Solo was fairly good, and would I recommend it? I would say probably to most people. It's never going to be your favorite Star Wars movie, but it's not by any means unenjoyable either.
All right. And you said next week you're planning on going to see Deadpool 2?
Yes. Unless there's rain or something else that interferes, yes.
Okay. Well, Aaron and I went to go see Infinity War, Solo, and Deadpool 2 all in the same day. We basically did a massive
I was
theater
planning
hop.
to do that, and then I realized I probably would have fallen asleep in the theater if I had tried.
But I think we thought Deadpool 2 was the best out of those movies.
Okay, that's
it had the most emotional structure to it. So anyway, we move on to that to our episode review or our episode summary. And who wants to do the episode summary?
I will do it actually, since I'm here now.
Okay, yeah, welcome.
The funny thing was, I was like, I kind of felt bad for ducking it last week, so I figured screw it. I took notes while I was watching it this time.
That's fine. I've got next week, so.
Or shouldn't Bill get next week? Then if I goes full circle?
No. Bill can have the week after.
The week after is Dragonfire, right?
Yeah.
I'm good with that one. I think I've watched it 3 times, so I should definitely be able to summarize that.
Okay, and Invisible Enemy is on my favorites list, so I've seen it enough times that I can build a summary out of it now, and it'll be a lot easier after I rewatch it for the first time in like 10 years.
Anyways, whenever you're ready.
Yep.
Okay. The serial opens with Leela being banished into the wilderness for opposing her people's god. She ends up getting attacked by her own people because the shaman Niva ends up just wanting her taken care of. And after that, she ends up running into the doctor. After convincing Leela that he's not the evil one that her people speak of, the doctor allows himself to be taken to the leader of the Sever team, only for them to try to kill him, and he ends up being saved by Leela. Thanks to Niva, a search for the doctor and Leela is called off so they can attempt an attack on the wall. And Leela shows Doctor the titular face of evil, which is basically a mountain with the Doctor's face carved into it. While the Sever team go off to attack the wall, the Doctor and Leela investigate Niva's tent and discover the transceiver he talks to Zoannan through, which recognizes the Doctor, which confuses the Doctor, especially because it has the voice of the Doctor. Leela then shows the Doctor the wall, and the Doctor realizes it's a time barrier. They try to convince Caleb to help them, only for him to use a Janus Thorn on Leela. Thankfully, the Doctor realizes the equipment in Niva's tent is actually capable of making an antidote for the Janus Thorn, which is supposed to be incurable, and he's able to save Leela from dying. But then the Doctor is captured again, as Leela and Tomas, as they're trying to get away as well. They manage to... what was it again? The Doctor has to end up taking a trial, the test of the Hoarder or something like that, manages to succeed without really trying, even though he kind of plays it up. The Doctor goes back into the Niva's tent, only to have a talk with Zoannan again, who says he's turning off the machines at the barrier that allow the creatures to get through. The Doctor and Leela go to find the breach in the barrier and realize it's through the mouth of the Doctor's face carved into the mountain. While the leader of the Sever team is killed by what appears to be a vision of the Doctor's face, with Caleb assuming control over the tribe as a result of that guy's death. The Doctor and Leela manage to find the Tesh, with them living on the ship the 17 and Tesh came from, realizing both people are descendants of the first people who landed there, with the Tesh taking Leela captive and eventually the Doctor when they doubt who he is. The Doctor manages to break the particle analysis machine they were trying to kill Leela with, and him. And the Doctor finally realizes what's actually going on and what Zoannan is. It's a computer designed to make independent thought that, because of the Doctor messing with it to try and fix it, actually drove it insane. As an attempt to save the Sever team, the Doctor convinces Niva through the transceiver to get the other Sever team to come through the barrier to where the Tesh are, reasoning they'll be safer there. Doctor finally confronts Zoannan with Leela standing guard and killing a few Tesh. The Doctor's interaction with Zoannan only manages to confuse it further, however, and almost makes it kill the Doctor. Leela manages to use one of those weapon things that the Tesh have to stop Zoannan from killing the Doctor and takes him to safety, only to be attacked by a Tesh, but they manage to get away from, kill him and then make it off. Zoannan then tries to make a final play by basically brainwashing everyone and making them all try to kill the Doctor, including Leela, who ends up stabbing the console and knocks herself out. However, Niva is the only one who is not able to be controlled, and ends up essentially unwittingly sacrificing himself to give the Doctor a chance to actually make the link and undo it, which restores Zoanna to normal. And that also cut off the mental link between the Tesh and the Sever team. The Doctor then wakes up 2 days later, and the Tesh and Sever team basically now have to live in peace. They're trying to figure out they end up arguing over who the leader is going to be, and the Doctor just leaves them to it. And he tries to go off on his own, but Leela tries to basically forces herself onto the TARDIS and causes it to take off. And that's it.
All right.
5 minutes, 16 seconds.
The funny thing is, as I was like doing it, I was like, oh god, this is like way too long. We're gonna have to like condense a lot of this.
Gotta play it by ear.
Yeah. All right, so now we're going to talk about what we liked about the episode, and Bill, you were up first.
Ha, of course.
It's been a long time since we had a full deck.
I had this feeling. I'm like, you know what? I haven't been here for a while. I'm going to be stuck going first.
Believe it or not, I didn't decide that myself. The dice did. It's like, okay, roll a d6, re-roll on a 6. What do I get? 1. Whose name is alphabetically first? Why, Bill.
So I'm going to say I like that they went through the whole beginning, like, oh, the Doctor is the evil one, and then he realizes, oh, he's Zoannan also, and I liked that duality.
Well, in a way, he kind of was, because it was his fault. In a way, he made the mistake, which made the monster.
Yeah.
Which kind of makes him ultimately responsible.
Which makes him the monster.
Yeah.
A la all Frankenstein debate.
Very much so. All right. So, Aaron, you are next. That's right. I rolled 2 1s.
Well, overall, I enjoyed Niva.
He is a very interesting character.
He's a very interesting character. He's unique as a villain slash, anti-doctor foe type of deal. And yet also somewhat with him because, he's kind of resembling the god that he worships. And, I remember him most as being for his temperamental personality and his shaved head and beard. And that helmet that he had, it feels like a Mad Max villain almost, only a little bit more calm.
Plus the holy power glove.
Calm and washed. But otherwise, he's got that dominating, I'm just gonna tear your head off.
Well, if you think about it, the Seven team themselves kind of do have that Mad Maxy feel using leftover components from their ship.
Mad Max meets tribalism.
Yeah, well, there were points, especially in Thunderdome, where you saw that they had gone back to tribalism. A little bit in Road Warrior as well.
In small patches, yeah.
Yeah, you just don't have you just don't have the gas guzzling.
Does anyone know who played Niva?
I don't know what his name was, but I do know that he was actually one of the villains in the War Games.
Oh.
He was the guy with the monocle.
Oh. Interesting.
Niva was played by David Garfield. Was the actor's name.
Yeah, he's got a very unique, even his face is kind of unique looking. And how he looks down his nose at you in, a lot of the pictures that we see. Yeah, of course he was on Zed cars and everything.
You checking him out on IMDb?
I'm checking him out on TARDIS Data Core. He was in The Prisoner. the It Crowd, Little Britain, Cadfael. I don't see anything else. Elizabeth R. The Saint. Yeah.
He was Von Weiss in War Games.
Yeah.
I don't think he had the beard and
no, he was clean shaven. He just had like a scarf thing
was,
over one of his eyes.
He was very Colonel Clinky.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he was also in an audio story by Big Finish, The Hollows of Time. Played Professor Stream. So yeah, he's very unique, and he still looks very unique. He still looks actually kind of intimidating, even in his old age, or older age, I should say.
Yeah, most of the pictures from him on IMDb are from Face of Evil.
Mm-hmm.
Because you can see him with the helmet and the. It's like most known for Lorna Doone, 1976, and all of his pictures are from Face of Evil. It's like, what?
Yeah.
Most known from that, eh?
He's Weasley. He had a unique look, a unique personality, and he actually filled a fairly unique role. You know, he was that of kind of the traitor / Weasley medicine man, shaman, basically. More such, so.
The
advisor trying to undermine the leader, the Grand Vizier, Aladdin, type of deal.
So. All right.
Let me don the holy vacuum tubes, and blessed be my Nintendo Power Glove.
Tim, how about you?
What I really enjoyed overall was how the lengths they went to making the two factions truly distinct from each other beyond just, like one is the savage and one is like the technology. Like, it went beyond costumes. Like, I could see like differences in like their speech patterns and their mannerisms, and just like the type of like people they cast in each role. Like,
there's like even a distinctive skin tone to them too.
Yeah.
Because the tech people have been sheltered for so long.
It's kind of like the classic version of the Time Machine.
Like with the Morlocks and the Eloi.
Thank you. I could not remember their name.
There you go. Nailed it.
Yeah. I could remember the Morlocks. I could not remember the other one. So.
Morlocks is an easy one to remember.
Yeah, especially if you're an old X-Men fan like me. Yeah. I really like that. Thomas, how about you?
I must admit Niva was going to be my first choice, but thankfully I had a backup, and I actually really liked the fact that there's so much in this. Like, holy crap. I was like most of the way through the first episode, and I was like, Jesus, this is still one episode? There's like so much going on.
Only 20-some minutes.
But like in a good way. Like, there are some things where you're like, oh god, this is dragging. But this was actually like, wow, they fit a fuckload into 4 episodes.
It went fast too. It was good, but it was like, wow, we're at the end already? Wow.
Yeah. Really tight writing.
By the way, I think we're seeing proof of why the Hinchcliffe era is considered one of the best in Doctor Who. Is because of the really tight writing between him and Robert Holmes. So. Matt, how about you?
Finally, my turn, eh? Oh gosh.
Yeah, you got the end. You got the end list. Well, other than me, who got the.
I'm surprised no one else claimed it, but holy smokes, Leela right out of the basket. She's already got an interesting development where she's known for being a troublemaker, apparently, in her tribe. Her father is instantly getting killed a few moments after her introduction on screen. And she fends for herself in the wild against her own people, and immediately bumps into the Doctor, where she has an interesting but amusing, weird but amusing dialogue with him.
Mm. After which she just kind of clings on to him like a limpet.
Yes, she just sees that he speaks logic enough to her that she goes, you know what, he's absolutely right, and just decides to stick with him because so far he's been good luck. You would almost seem. But yeah, she was instantly an interesting character right out of the bag. Oh, and she wasn't also afraid to kill people if they got too far into her hair.
A thing that would eventually wind up bothering the Doctor.
It bothered the Doctor, but every once in a while he would be like, you know what? She's actually going to be the most useful thing for this. You got any of those thorns left?
Yeah, it was like.
She even later on, she'll even reply, but you told me to never bring them. He's like, yes, but you have them. Pulls out one. Thank you.
It's like Ace and Nitro 9.
Yeah, I was going to say the original version of Nitro 9.
Right. So we're down to me. I gotta think if there's anything. I guess I can say that I'm still fond of the visual effects of this episode. Especially when, like, a lot of their blue screen was done relatively well. There was a couple of points where it wasn't, but
there's a couple of shots with the mountain which were a little meh, but the rest of it worked really well.
Yeah, especially like the face of the Doctor being used for the monster. I actually thought was actually slightly frightening.
Oh yeah, the invisible monster. All of a sudden they finally shoot it, and you finally see it, and it's a screeching Doctor face. It's like, oh my god.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think another thing that probably helped was like they were smart enough to have that red effect around when they go through when they're supposed to be walking through the illusion of the wall.
So you didn't
just
see
so you couldn't see the outline. Yeah.
That did kind of help. Yeah, apparently they're discovering the fact that you combine blue screen and post-production, and
then you really get the things to work the way they want them to. Yeah.
So that was a positive. All right. So what didn't you like about the movie or the serial? And Bill, you're first.
No Sarah Jane. Terrible story.
Well, I'm sorry, Bill, but you happen to, absolutely decide to go take a vacation through all the Sarah Jane serials.
Yeah, I couldn't come up with anything, so I'm like, well, this is 2 stories after Sarah Jane departed, so it's valid.
All right. So, Aaron, how about you?
I kind of felt that some of the minor characters for the Savages were kind of forgettable, like Caleb, and a few of them. The tribal leader, I can't even remember his name, but yeah, some of Leela's, tribe were just kind of meh. And then you have like Niva, who sticks out like a sore thumb and is totally awesome and everything. So, I felt that maybe
Niva.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of do a good job at painting him as a dark horse by comparison, but at the same time, there's no one really charismatic that is in danger of outshining Leela or Niva or the Doctor or any of the other, or even the Teshes and stuff. Technically, none of the Teshes really stood out, except for maybe their captain a little bit, but they weren't really supposed to. They were all supposed to be kind of the same. Because, they're part of a eugenics experiment.
The whole one mind.
Yeah, so that's my main complaint, at least, and it's not really that terrible of one. It certainly doesn't drag down the episode enough for me not to recommend it. So that's that.
Just one little meh thing.
Yeah.
Oh, that's why I knew that guy. The guy that played Caleb was Leslie Schofield, and he plays an Imperial officer in Star Wars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, he's one of the officers on the Death Star, Chief Bast.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. He also appeared in the holiday special as they used stock footage from A New Hope.
Yeah, so I know exactly who he is. Yeah, I know that stock footage.
Yeah. And he was also in an episode of Blake 7, which, of course, I've watched to no end.
Of course.
Horse! And then Thomas was also a relatively known actor, but mostly Shakespearean. Oh, but he was in an episode of Space 1999.
Ah.
Catacombs of the Moon.
Dun dun dun.
The funny thing is, it's just like the guy who played Niva, he was also in the War Games. As in, like, the token American that actually gets a lot of lines.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah, I've been kind of looking through the list of the characters and seeing if any of them were other people I would have known from other stuff, and no, none of them are. Just Leslie Schofield, really. I just like, wow, he was in Star Wars? Okay.
Yeah, I know. I got the feeling that I knew him from something, but it wasn't clicking with me.
I thought I knew him from later Doctor Who serials, but no, it was Star Wars. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That works. Whatever. Okay. So we were up to Tim. What didn't you like about the episode?
I didn't like this episode because it wasn't just time lash, so...
I take it you got nothing?
Yeah, there was really nothing overall that made me dislike this episode, so I'll just take a pass.
All right. Thomas.
You know what? I'm probably going to have to take a pass as well, because I really can't think of anything. I can't even really think of any nitpicky stuff.
Matt.
Ooh, I'm going to have to get nitpicky here. Trying to think. Gosh, I'm trying to be nitpicky. I'm not really... Oh, you know what? The one thing I can nitpick is there was no inside the TARDIS. There. That's all I got.
Wow. No inside the TARDIS.
I'm literally trying to come up with anything. There was nothing that really took me out of it other than the fact that I had to watch a slightly bad quality.
Yeah, mine wasn't that bad.
Yeah, but you probably have other places you can find it and I can't. So
okay. So Bill, no Sarah Jane, worst episode ever. Tim, not Time Lash, worst episode ever. Matt, no TARDIS, no TARDIS interior, worst episode ever. Me, no canine, worst episode ever.
Wow.
Okay. Favorite scenes. Bill.
Scene. I'm going to go with no. Then who am I?
Who am I? Who am I? Yeah.
Yeah. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
They of course, they had to end the episode on that too.
Of course.
Mm-hmm.
Of course.
Of course.
Okay, Aaron, how about you?
I like the doctor putting Niva to sleep. He's just like tap.
Tap on the forehead. You bonk.
It's very Mantis of him. Decades before Mantis was ever in a movie.
All right, Tim.
One more step, and I'll kill him with this deadly jelly baby.
God damn you.
That was my second choice.
Go ahead, kill him. No one gives me orders. No.
Take me to your leader.
Thomas.
Thankfully, no one took mine, so I'm just gonna go with it. The guy, like some random 17, backhands Leela, and then the doctor's like, "Who is that man? Which man?" Kicks one of those water up onto his arm. That man. It's one of those things where the doctor's always like, "Oh, I don't do violent stuff, this, that, whatever," but then Leela gets backhanded, so he's like, "Right, I hate you now."
You scumbag, eat some of this. It's not gonna kill him. It's gonna hurt like the dickens.
Okay, Matt, your favorite scene.
Oh gosh, now I have to replace Deadly Jelly Baby. Oh, actually, easy follow up. Leela lands at his feet. Hello there. Would you like? You're the evil one. I'm not the evil one. Here, would you like a jelly baby? It's true then.
True.
They say the dark one eats babies. No, it's a sweet. Here, see.
Okay. So
Classic.
my favorite scene is actually the final scene of the serial.
Oh,
Leela, Leela runs up to the doctor. It's like, "Can I come with?" And he's just trying to, brush her off because he's in his I travel alone mode.
Which happens once in a while.
And then she just bolts through into the TARDIS. She's like, "Get out of there!
Get out
Come on,
of there.
get out
Walks
of there!
in.
Get out of there! Don't touch that!" Greatest exit line of a Doctor Who serial.
I almost kind of wonder if part of that was put in there as a rib, considering Tom Baker was like, "Oh, do I need a companion? I can just travel on my own."
Yeah.
If that whole thing was a kind of rib on that.
Quite possibly.
Okay. Going to least favorite scene.
Ooh.
Bill.
I'm going to go with the one where they're trying to figure out a leader and the doctor just fucks off. Because it just kind of felt like all of the development that he's supposedly been going through since the War Games is just like, nope, he's just the same doctor from before who does not stay around to pick up the mess.
No, it made sense to me.
Made sense to me because he doesn't want to get involved in the whole leadership thing.
No. He knows what'll happen.
They'll try asking him to do it.
Yes. They'll try pressuring him into being leader.
And
he's
like,
like,
nope.
"I'm not getting involved in that shit." Nope.
Which is kind of funny considering Leela's also like, "Oh, you want me to be leader? Well, see ya."
Well, because if he had been
figure it out amongst yourselves.
If he had been part of the conversation, he could have been like, "No, take Leela as the leader so that she doesn't follow me onto my TARDIS."
Wait, doesn't he point out that she should be leader?
No, someone.
No, it was a conversation with and one of the other guys from her tribe mentioned, well, because of that, she should be leader. And she's like, but what was the doctor? Wait, doctor?
Me, leader? Where did the doctor go? Yoink! So, no, I understand it perfectly. He's just like, nope, not getting me for that. And it would take many regenerations before somebody would nail him into that Mr. President of Earth.
And they did it they made that decision while he wasn't there.
Hey, don't I get a say in this? Nope, you're president. Yep.
Nope.
All right. So, Aaron, your least favorite scene.
I'm gonna say the Horda Pit scene. In that particular scene especially, they kind of looked like kind of fake rubbery little creatures. They don't really
They were just shaking the bottom of the cage.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, it was obvious. They might as well have just thrown a bunch of rubber snakes in there for all they're good at did them.
Instead of giant rubber trilobites?
Yeah, basically.
When they were solo and actually being animated by somebody off set, they were actually more effective then. But when they were in that cage, it was just like, meh.
Yeah,
it'd all be done with CGI today.
Yeah, when the doctor actually threw one onto the guy, that was actually kind of funny.
And somewhat effective.
Yep. Yep, that's mine then.
All right, Tim.
Doctor, where are we? We're on this transport thing to take it to the ship. It's really impressive. Too bad the audience will never get to see it.
It's called Budget. Of shoe and string.
Oh, well.
I mean, in that interview, a part of the interview I think I didn't quote with Hinchcliffe. I think he said that they were doing stuff for like 200 to 300 pounds. Oh no, I did put that in there. Yeah, doing stuff for 200 to 300 pounds. So yeah, they had to make do with what they could. Like I said, it's more common today because they'll do it all with CGI, and that's expected.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Star Trek: The Next Generation. All right, Thomas, your least favorite scene.
Wow. I mean, it's funny because I think there are some that I'm just like, this could probably not have been shown, but I just can't pin anything down, so I might have to skip again.
Okay. Matt?
So you remember when you're kids and you're playing the game The Floor is Lava? Got a new game for you. The walls are electrified and red hot. And the doctor's now a murderer. Not that he wanted to be, but the guy really didn't give him much choice.
No.
Yeah, and didn't he lecture Leela about murdering people?
Yeah, and obviously he immediately just goes, I didn't want to do that, I didn't want to do that, and got up, but even the doctor will kill a person if it's absolutely necessary.
Yeah. So, I guess we're down to me, and mine is the doctor coming out of the TARDIS for the first time in episode 1, and immediately starts breaking the fourth wall.
Actually, I think, I probably would have gone with that as well, so it's probably a good thing I did skip.
And I mean, the first line or two is okay, because that's idle to himself, but then he actually stops, looks right at the camera, and starts talking.
And now it's already in the handkerchief. I wonder what that was for, looking directly at us, yes.
Yeah. And I'm just like, okay, this is why you need a companion.
You're officially going crazy and talking to the camera.
Mm-hmm. Because you're not Deadpool. Deadpool can talk directly to the camera because he's a nut bar. You're not supposed to be that much of a nut bar.
A few doctors have done that. I know 12 did it a few times.
Yeah, but it was mostly if you look at other subsequent scenes, he's actually just looking in one direction. It's just that they had a straight on camera angle on him. I think Listen was one of those where he was like in lecture mode.
I was going to say, are you implying he was just lecturing the TARDIS?
Yeah, he's he's basically giving a general lecture, mostly to himself. But if you look at other camera angles, he's still looking in that same direction as it was in the first shot. This was more deliberate, pause, looked straight at the camera.
Or I think especially Before the Flood, or the one before that. Where he's talking about the bootstrap paradox.
Yeah, that's the same thing as the Listen one, where he's basically giving a general lecture. Mind you, I think that's shitty writing, and it's mostly Moffat's fault.
Shake fist.
It's still a little more acceptable to me than this one. Which is a deliberate camera look when there shouldn't be one. And yeah, that bothered me. Just it becomes obvious that this is why the Doctor should not be a solo character.
Yeah.
Because he needs somebody to bounce this shit off of. Considering, I think for the ones that you mentioned, the doctor was also at least teaching for at least a couple of those. Or actually, no, those were both pre-teaching, weren't they?
Those
Those
were
were both
pre-teaching.
still Doctor and Clara ones, weren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, if he had done that during the Series 10 run, I could have written it off a little more as practice lectures.
Right.
Where you're basically formulating what you're going to say in front of the lecture hall. And, voicing it out loud and deciding if it sounds good.
Although I have a feeling that might be why they decided to make him a teacher, just having those scenes like, well, how do we explain them retroactively?
Yeah, that was in fact, I think they used some of that as his lecture stuff, and it made a lot more sense. But yeah, the big part though was there was no excuse for this one. There was no way to side explain it either. He starts talking
directly
and then
at the audience.
Yeah.
I think that might be one reason why they introduced K9, because at least then when he was rambling to himself, he could just throw a K9 at the end of the sentence.
And then K9, or rather that he could ramble to himself and K9 would reply even when he didn't expect it.
Yeah.
K9 worked great that way. And by the way, there was a previous case of the doctor breaking the fourth wall, but that was for that infamous Christmas scene.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yes, I did forget that one.
Mm-hmm. And there was no excuse for that one either.
And the third doctor could always be written off as a scientist talking to himself.
Mm-hmm. And he did do that a few times, but it was mostly, The thing is, when the third doctor would do it, it was usually in like half-stated sentences, He would say parts of a sentence, which is like somebody talking to themselves.
Yeah.
This was a full-on conversation. The scene that he did this, I believe it was in Invasion of Time, in an upcoming one, where he would actually talk to himself and answer himself like he was having a conversation, was done a lot better. Like he'd actually have a debate with himself and, eventually come to a decision on what he was doing. But he never directly looked at the camera at that. And that was my main issue, was this immediate look at the camera. Like he, after two or three shots of him not looking at the camera, he turns and looks directly at it. No.
Yeah.
Bad doctor. You need a companion to do this.
At least if you're going to do that, it should be because he's looking, he says, oh, there's my spanner. And picks it up right.
Yeah, if they lampshade it like that, that's fine. Yeah. But no, this was just a bad one. Okay, so we've done all that. Time for our final thoughts. Bill.
Okay. I think this was overall a pretty good serial. I do think that I wish this would have been great to watch live, because the Deadly Jelly Baby had been spoiled 1,000 times before I saw it, and I knew that the doctor was the evil one. And I think it would have had more impact if I went into it blind. But of course, it being 2018, there's really no way around that. I was going to know one way or another. It was a good episode. Like I mentioned, I feel like the ending doubled down on the doctor not having any character development in the past few seasons, with Reef not sticking around to help clean up, potentially causing the mess to get worse than the one he stumbled into. But it was, besides that nitpick, or, that little bit at the end, it was a good episode. I didn't really have any complaint other than basically that scene. I enjoyed it, and it was funny.
All right. Aaron.
I think this serial is very well done. I highly recommend it. I feel that Zwanen is, while it's, a cliche of an evil computer, it's also a somewhat sympathetic cliche, because you hear the child's voice screaming out and the doctor's reactions to it, treating it like a living creature, and overall giving it actually some respect is very surprising and very kind of refreshing and everything. We're used to kind of seeing people just fight against these things no matter what. And here he is trying to actually understand its actions, understand that it was his fault that he created this thing. or that he interfered when he did. So, I felt that really kind of elevated the whole story, along with, Leela, the introduction of Leela, a very strong character, and a bunch of other concepts that I felt really came together and was really, really makes it worth watching. So I highly recommend it, like I said.
All right. Tim?
I thought this was a very well done episode, amusing, with memorable characters, a good performance by the Doctor and his new companion Leela. It hit all the right beats. It brought some interesting themes and questions up about legends and history, and I liked how it touched on something that isn't touched on too often in Doctor Who, like the after effects of the Doctor's adventures. And I'm wondering, have we ever seen in Big Finish, what the Doctor's first encounter with Zoannon when he tried to fix it? Has that ever been brought up, or is that just
not that I'm aware of,
left to the imagination?
What was the name of the planet?
I don't think they ever named the planet. If it was named, I believe the Doctor only mentioned it once.
Let's see.
Oh, unnamed planet. That's not very helpful.
That's all it says in the data core.
Yeah.
The two tribes are too busy fighting each other to name the planet.
There's nothing before this story listed in the history under TARDIS, so I don't think there's anything else. There are things after referencing it, but nothing set before this.
So no, the prequel has not been made.
Yeah, it's always been assumed that it happened during Robot when he took off. Is kind of, I think they mentioned that in the book version of this, but that's not canonical.
No.
All right. Other than that, I thought it was a pretty cool episode.
Okay. Thomas?
I must admit, given how enthusiastic Matt was last week, I was kind of like, ooh, I'm going to have to try and be wary, because there's always the kind of, just because someone else really enjoys the hell out of it doesn't necessarily mean you will, so I tried to temper that a bit. But honestly, even after the first watch, I was like, holy crap, this is probably one of the better Doctor Who serials I've seen. Which is kind of funny, because I also enjoyed the hell out of the War Games, which was another kind of evil computer thing that we did earlier, because this is kind of the year of the evil computer, apparently. And though, yeah, even as Aaron brought up, we've done War Machines, Green Death, and now this, that all have some kind of evil computer in it. And I think technically all of them have been different in some way, thankfully. But I would actually say, of those three, this one is probably the most interesting as far as that twist to it goes. Even though I really liked the War Machines and I liked Green Death anyway. But yeah, I would definitely recommend that people check this out.
All right. Matt?
Who else thinks that the handkerchief knot was actually to remind him that he needed to wipe his brain from Zoannon?
It's quite possible. It's also quite possible that it's to remind him for the same thing he was about to knot his handkerchief to remind himself.
Possible too. But that was always my theory on the nut. Anyways, outside of that, probably this is probably during the most classic era of the show. This is one of the better stories to come out of that particular era with Tom Baker. Leela is an almost instant out of the bag, interesting character, and she remains as such throughout. The effects are pretty solid for the most part, outside of maybe one little tiny hiccup here or there. Otherwise, the guys who are doing the effects are starting to get how to do them a little bit better. And there's some really memorable character moments and bits of dialogue throughout. It's just a instant classic, to be honest.
All right, is that it?
That's about it. Also, by the way, take a look at that piece of artwork I found that I shared in the chat.
Oh, cool.
I think they might have skimpified Leela's outfit a bit, but yeah.
Maybe a bit, but I'm more in awe of how nice they made that mountain look.
Yeah. No, I just kind of looked at the whole thing as like, wow, that's kind of a fantasy pinup version of Leela there.
Yeah, I think there's a little more to the back of that outfit.
I don't think she was ever fully topless.
Well, I'm not sure she is topless. I think it's just backless, which is just no.
Which is not the costume, yeah. Someone took liberties, but anyway.
Anyway. So as I was about to say, the Philip Hinchcliffe era is considered to be one of the best eras of Doctor Who. It pretty much starts right after Robot. He basically began bringing it up to quality more and more and more with each passing season. And I believe he would continue pretty much up to just before the Invasion of Time. So it was or no, I think this is the last season that he is the in charge of Doctor Who. He goes through like the first half of Leela. And this is pretty much like getting to be some of the pinnacles of his stories. And it shows. I mean, the quality, the snappiness of the writing, basically all the general quality is at some of the best we will see out of Doctor Who in a long time. And I can't really say anything better than that. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's darn close. I think we all decided last week en masse that one of the ones that we were going to show in our next podcast season is going to be Robots of Death, which is the episode after this one.
Sweet, Robots of Death.
And is also in that same vein. So we will definitely probably get most of the Hinchcliffe era done within the next season or two. All right. So ratings.
I'm trying to think of a reason not to give this a 5, and I'm not coming up with anything.
Yeah, we had a hard time. We had a hard time with that last week too.
I'm having a hard time with that too.
So yeah, I guess my rating's a 5.
5. Aaron.
Goes for me too. 5.
All right. Tim.
Even though this was not Time Lash, I'll go ahead and give this a 5 as well.
You know, I'm never going to stop giving you shit for giving Time Lash such a high score.
Well, apparently,
what was the score?
And I'm never going to stop taking pride in that.
Thomas.
Well, as I said after the podcast last week, I think I was considering my views on giving 5s. I've changed that. This is getting a 5.
Woo! Did you want to retroactively change last week's?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so last week's is also getting bumped up to a 5, and I am noting that that is a change. I have color codes for when stuff is changed and stuff.
Mm-hmm. Because we are allowed to go back and change our minds on things.
On second watchings and other things, yeah. So that will, by the way, bump Hand of Fear to a solid 5.0 average. We don't think it's perfect. We just think it's damn close.
It's very damn close. Oh, Face of Evil is no better than the Hand. So yeah, 5 definitely.
5. Okay.
Face of Evil is amazing.
That's 2 5s. 2 5s in the flat. That's great.
And number is.
Well, this is. I'm going to give 2 here since we've changed last week's. There's going to be 2 retroactive changes. Problem is, the scores are functionally identical.
So what you're saying is I should not watch Hand of Fear and then be like, oh, well, this is a 3.
we might want to skin you alive.
Okay.
No intimidation.
So Hand of Fear and Face of Evil are now number 4 and number 5, respectively, on our list of ranked episodes.
Everyone's opinions are valued here.
They are on par with Caves of Androzani, Sarah Jane Adventures, The Lost Boy, and Remembrance of the Daleks. They are not worse than any, and are better than The Pirate Planet and An Unearthly Child if you remove the Tribe of Gum. Yeah.
Boom.
These are as high as they get, pretty much. This is our hall of excellence.
Yes. Run, don't walk to see this episode.
And it still annoys me to this day that Day of the Doctor is not in the hall of excellence. By the way, this actually bumps it down to number 16.
Oof.
Yeah, although I really can't say much looking at the episodes that we have rated above it. They're all pretty much worthy of the Hall of Excellence. The only one that would be questionable is Time Heist, and I really like Time Heist.
Time Heist is really good.
Yeah. So there we go. Number 4, number 5 out of now 252 things reviewed. That is all that we can say about The Face of Evil and retroactively The Hand of Fear. Well, until Bill decides to put in his 5 cents. And I dare you to find flaw in this episode. I fucking dog dare you.
Well, there's no Leela in it, but...
Bill, coming out here to GeekCon or not, I will find a way to kick you in the dick. And I mean it this time. Oh, no, can't rate this one a 5. There's no Sarah Jane. Oh, can't rate that one a 5. There's no Leela.
Nappa wants to give his opinion of the matter. Nappa.
So really, Bill would not be happy until somebody made the Sarah Jane and Leela shipping cereal for Doctor Who.
Oh my.
All right. So take us out, please, Bill.
All right. So if you enjoy listening to us, don't forget to follow us on Twitch and subscribe to us on YouTube, where we are in the process of exporting our past few episodes. So again, sorry about that. You can also follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/unearthlypodcast and twitter.com/unearthlypod for news and updates. And if you want to support us, you can head on over to patreon.com/unearthlypodcast.
Yeah, apparently Bill's the only one with the access to upload those, and, who knew? So next week, well, actually, we're going to be off next week due to Independence Day being on the same day as our podcast, and our broadcast time actually coincides with peak boom boom time here in Wisconsin. And Aaron and I live only a few blocks from a country club that likes its boom booms.
Mm-hmm.
Boom, 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 boom.
So not only would that make it the world's worst podcast for us, I don't know, does Mayville actually do fireworks?
Yes, they do, and I can not only hear them, but see them from here.
Okay, so that's 3 of us. that would not be able to speak for most of the podcast because every other word would be accentuated by large booming coming out of her windows.
And I'm pretty sure there'd be loud noises in New York City too.
Yeah, not all of them fireworks.
Yeah. Not only that, but Erin dislikes fireworks. They hurt her ears. Yes. So we tend to be hidden in a theater on July 4th. And we plan to be again. However, we'll be back the week after with another Tom Baker serial from only one season later. I think, however, this one is out of the Philip Hinchcliffe range. Because I believe his last one is actually no.
Oh, it's a Hinchcliffe still?
He didn't even make it to the end of the season. His last serial is Wang Chiang. Oh. Horror of Fang Rock is the beginning of Graham Williams. So we'll be going in for the first serial of the following season, which would be, or actually, excuse me, no, that Horror of Fang Rock was the beginning of the 15th season. This would be the second serial in the 15th season. This would be the first episode where the Doctor gets his first robot companion in The Invisible Enemy, written by Bob Baker and Dave Martin, not that we can say anything wrong about them, and starring Tom Baker as the Doctor, Louise Jameson as Leela, and introducing John Leeson as the voice of K9.
Unfortunately, it's not his only robot companion.
Yeah, we won't talk about the other one.
We tried to avoid the other one. Affirmative.
See you all next week, folks. Or in 2 weeks, folks.
2 weeks. See you all then.
2 weeks.
Good night.
Bye-bye.